Welcome to another episode of the Caroline Glick Show. As you know, everybody right now is thinking about Iran after Iran's attack on Israel on April 13th. What a lot of people don't know is that April 13th wasn't Iran's only attack this past week. There was also an event that happened on April 15th, not in Israel. It wasn't a direct Iranian attack on Israel. Rather, it works out that the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps was behind the April 15th traffic stoppages, port closures, bridge blockages throughout the Western world. And the person who exposed this is Iranian opposition figure and human rights activist Vahid Behesti, who I became aware of him on Twitter, my fount of all knowledge now, thanks to Elon Musk, who doesn't block people. And I asked Vahid if he could be on the show today, both to talk about his amazing revelation and also to talk more broadly about what's happening right here in this region with Israel and Iran and Iran's proxies and what the stakes are and how they've risen since April 15th. So first of all, I'm so glad that you're here on the show. Thank you very much for joining me today, Vahid Behesti.
Thank you for having me here. It's my honor to be on your show.
So I say that you're an Iranian opposition figure and human rights activist. Can you tell my audience a little bit about your background and how you came to have these august titles?
So basically, I dedicated my life for past 18 years, especially fighting this evil regime. 26 years ago, I fled Iran because I was a political prisoner there, and I was was prisoned twice in Iran, and I was lucky I could escape the country. But past 18 years, mainly, I am really I've been really active fighting this evil regime. But mainly, if I'm gonna bring it down, is my activities become well known, very known in past year. 23rd February 2023. That was the day which I started my demonstration with hunger strike in front of UK Foreign Office. We had one demand for prescription of IRGC. So that
to designate the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist organization.
To designate the IRGC as a terrorist organization. So that hunger strike lasts 72 days in front of UK Foreign Office. I lost 21 kilograms. I was hospitalized on the day 72. I was 2 weeks in the hospital and 1 week in safe house, because when I was in the hospital, we found that the fatwa has been issued for my head through one of the IRGC clergies. So, but in this, then after that, I went back to my camp, and God bless them, the London Counter-Terrorism Unit. Until this day, they tried everything to convince me to stop protesting in front of Foreign Office. Today is the day 421. But sometime I'll come for my meetings, for different activities, to different cities, to different places, which it's very we won't say where we're going. After the hunger strike, first travel I went to Ukraine. I met with Ukrainian politicians because we share the same enemy with Ukrainians. As we speak, Ukrainian people, they get killed by the killer drones supplied by IRGC to Putin. So that was my first trip. Then I was invited by Middle East Forum to Israel. So I am the first Iranian opposition figure, first Iranian actually, who gave a speech in Knesset to the ministers. So when I was, talking to ministers in Knesset, I brought up the issue which no one, I can say, until that date, they put their fingers on that very important issue. I said, look, for how long are we going to engage ourselves with the tentacles of this octopus, the octopus of terrorism? Since 8 years ago, I called Iranian regime the octopus of terrorism. I said, for how long are we going to engage ourselves with the tentacle of this octopus? Once for all, we have to target the head of octopus, which is Iranian regime inside of Iran. We should not be afraid to target the IRGC sites inside of Iran. We should not be afraid to target nuclear site of Iranian regime inside of Iran. We should not be afraid to target the house of high officials of the regime inside of Iran. This was said for the first time in which place? In Knesset, in Israel. So I was under the great attack after my speech, because I was interviewed by 47 medias in 2 days after my speech in Israel. It was gone viral, all the Iranian side inside of Iran and outside of Iran, they picked on what I have said in the Knesset. So I was under the great attack with the Iranian regime cyber army, especially the agents who they wearing the mask of opposition. Oh, Vahid is calling like his master Benjamin Netanyahu for carpet bombing Iran. Vahid is calling for killing innocent Iranian people, and all this propaganda, as you aware of that. So after 2 weeks, what happened? Iranian people in Iran, in Tehran, in capital city, from one of the big bridges, they hung big banner about 5-6 meter, which written on that in English and Farsi, Vahid Behesti is our voice. We stand by Israel. That was the first banner in Tehran.
When
that was, I would say, about 3 months ago. Then, maybe 5-6 weeks after that, which it was, I would say, 5 weeks ago, before my travel to DC, they hung another banner, which it says, respond again to my statement in Israel. They said, Vahid Behesti brought the message of the children of Cyrus the Great to Israel. Then underneath that, they said, Bibi, we are ready. This is very important message came out of Tehran. Then after that, I traveled to Washington, D.C. I had over 30 meetings with different officers in Congress and Senate, raising the existential threat of the Iranian regime and how we can counter that. I have 150 pages plan how we can counter this terrorist regime and overthrow that with the easiest way. Anyway, and I gave a speech in Knesset, which it was covered by C-SPAN. C-SPAN is the only network of Congress is being covered live. So after I came from DC, it was about 6.
You mean you gave us C-SPAN covered your speech in Washington, not at the Knesset,
right?
Right?
In Washington, yes. That was it was 2 weeks ago. Then few hours after I came from Washington DC to London, of course, the buildings next to the Iranian embassy in Syria was targeted. Of course, Israel didn't take responsibility so far for it, and I'm not going to say it was Israel, whomever was that, did a great job, because that was an embassy in the first place. That was an embassy. Because why, if it was an embassy, we didn't even have one diplomat in that? They were all the member of IRGC, top commander of IRGC, who they were planning another attack to Israel in that building. So when in my first interview, a few hours after the attack with one of the Israeli channel, I said this was the most effective and precise measure in front of Iranian regime. This is what we need, because they only understand this language. But this was my activity after the hunger strike. Let me tell you a little bit about the hunger strike.
Wait, let me just interrupt you for a second. No, let me just interrupt you for a second, if you don't mind. I do just want to get for a second to what happened on April 15th and what it was that you exposed. And then we can go back, because what you're talking about also is very much linked to what I want to talk to afterwards, which is, what is Israel supposed to do now to respond to Iran's aggression against us? But first, I want to talk, because I think it's a key issue that really hasn't been discussed that much, which is your revelation. So I just want to read from your quote, from your tweet. You presented this document, and hopefully my producers are going to be able to put it up. It's in Farsi, so it's all Greek to me, but it said you wrote top secret letter by the Deputy Commander-in-Chief and head of the IRGC's intelligence organization addressed to the Deputy Cultural and Psychological War Operations of the IRGC, titled Supporting and Encouraging Palestinian Movements Towards the Political Isolation of the Zionist Regime, in which the global movement on the 15th of April is the contents of the letter. The IRGC is very clearly organizing and promoting these actions aimed at destroying our modern society, all while our politicians continue to appease them, placing our value of stability and public order under great jeopardy. When I have said from day one that the October 7th brutal massacre by Hamas received its order from Tehran, this is what I mean. When I have said from day one that the IRGC are behind the weekly protests in all major cities around the world under the pretext of supporting the Palestinians, this is exactly what I mean. The IRGC's infiltration within our societies is something that I have repeatedly warned the West about, and it is about time that we act and designate them as a terrorist group. So before we go into the designation and the West's refusal to designate, most of the West, I think the United States designated the IRGC as a terror group under Trump. But can you talk a little bit about, the April 15th riots were massive and they were worldwide. And so you're saying that there's this document here of the IRGC that's actually directing them, that it's their brainchild. Can you talk a little bit about that?
April 15 is just a drop of this ocean, which we've been exposing for years. Of course, this page, this document that I revealed, it showed the order, the direction, the support. It comes from Tehran, it comes from IRGC, and this is part of their PR war. Iranian regime are expert in PR war, in infiltrating in our society and destroy it from within. This is their strength. So because they have been working on this over 35 years, they invest a lot on this. They got different groups. They have different so-called charities, religious centers, mosques, which they working on these different programs. When the October the 7th occurred, about few days after that, I was constantly in all my interviews was saying, follow the money, see where the money comes from in order to organize this big demonstration, especially in London and different cities of Europe. It's got to that point, and I was repeating that, just this one sentence. I was repeating this. I'm inviting our intelligence to follow the money, because this is not our job. It might be 200 links, maybe 100 links to get to the core of the money, which to see where the money comes from. It's got to that point, which is the supreme leader of the Iranian regime, Ali Khamenei, in one of his speech, it was 6 weeks after October the 7th, he couldn't tolerate it anymore. He says, an idiot in London constantly accusing us for holding this demonstration in London and in different cities of Europe. Maybe is the branch of IRGC in London or Paris organizing this. This is what he's exactly said, and Times, the newspaper of Times, quote him, after that. So I know this regime, I know their tactics, I know their principle, I know their strategy, I know how it works, I know their ins and outs. April 15th is not riot, is not calling for demonstration, is calling for war, is declaration of war against all our values in West. They're calling it themselves, not us, economical blockage. So what does that mean to us? And in this letter, they emphasizing we have to give the support, as much as support we can, to organize this event, this riot, in order to isolate the Zionist regime in Israel, because our PR war is been really effective. What do they mean? But our PR war and our psychological war was very effective. That means the propaganda machine It's been really effective. So look what they done. They turned the terrorist group who they committed the 7 October of massacre, this bunch of savages, this bunch of terrorists and rapists, into the victim. So that's what do they mean when they say our work and our psychological war was very effective, so let's continue and give the full support for April 15. So of course it was the very,
one of the things that came out after your scoop was, I think, in the Washington Free Beacon, there's a part in the propaganda clip for the A15 action.org, I think it is, or com, where they say, which we'll show a bit of here, it's that they say, don't talk to the police. We all have each other's back. And then the Washington Free Beacon report said that a primary fundraising node of the Democratic Party, it's called Act Blue, that they were raising money for legal funds for people who are arrested, so that they would be able to hire lawyers for them, so that anybody who was arrested blocking the Golden Gate Bridge or the roadways in London or in Paris, that they would then, I mean, this is actually just in the United States, so American cities that were also just mangled in terms of the traffic and everything because of this operation, that Act Blue would fund their legal assistance, which if what you're saying is accurate, and I assume that it is, then you're saying that actually what we have here is an example of a Democratic fundraising outlet acting knowingly or unknowingly as the assistant, as the partner of the IRGC in its war against the global economy. Is that essentially what we learned here? It's an extraordinary
exactly
thing.
One of the expertise of IRGC and Iranian regime is this: using our democracy against our democracy. So they're using all the values that we have and benefiting in our society. So we have a right to have a lawyer for to demonstrate our right, our freedom of speech, or to have the lawyer, to have this independent judiciary system that we have. So they're using all this against all these values. So that's what they are expert. They're using, because they have money. They have access to unlimited fund of this. Iran is the very wealthy country. When it comes to oil, is the third or fourth country it comes to oil. When it comes to gas, is the second country when it comes to gas. When it comes to gold mine and everything. Iran is a very rich country, which this, I would say, the group of Islamist fascists took over, occupied 45 years ago. They're using all this wealth toward this goal that they have. They have only one goal. I'm not revealing this. They are saying it publicly and proudly. If you listen to the speeches of Ali Khamenei or Iranian regime top commander, IRGC top commander, they're saying it loudly. What? This is their goal, their automated goal. Our goal is to turn the modern world into Islamic State. They think this is their mission. They think this is their divine mission. And they are here to do that. They said, we are here to complete the incomplete mission of Prophet Muhammad. This is what they think, and they're using all this money, all this fund, all these resources toward that, regardless of what kind of negotiation we have with them. Peace negotiation, nuclear negotiation, whatever. They have a goal and they are moving toward that goal. That's why they created about 18 officially, I don't know about unofficial, official proxies around Israel. To get to this goal, the first step is to destroy the state, wipe the state of Israel from the map. And this is not, we are not revealing anything again. They are saying it in all their speeches. This is their mission. what we're trying really hard to communicate with our leaders in here in Europe and in America is this regime is an existential threat toward our society, and we have to be aware of that. Just look the penetration that they have in these past 37 years in our society. How many charities they have, how many Islamic centers they have, how many mosques they have, how many lobbyist group they have. So they're brainwashing our youth and telling them to the enemy of our values in here, in middle of Europe, in London, in different city of Europe. They have all this lobbyist group. They invest a lot on that to influence our politicians, our decision makers, on our policy makers, to influence our domestic and foreign policy. Why you think we cannot? I am protesting in front of Foreign Office more than 1 year.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you. I mean, you here you are. You do this extraordinary protest at great personal cost from the perspective of your health and obviously your comfort, and nothing changed. Why not? I mean, they come to you and say stop, but they don't say we're going to actually designate the most powerful terrorist organization in the world a terrorist organization. Why won't they do it? What's so controversial?
Exactly, this is the point that I have, because their lobbyist group are so powerful here in the West. So they are influencing our not just foreign policy, our domestic policy as well. So this is the big danger that we have here. Let me to talk a little bit about the hunger strike and what we have achieved so far and why we haven't achieved the main demand that we have. So the hunger strike started 23rd of February 2023, as I said, lasted 72 days. On the day, for the first time on the day 26th, the government officially recognized my hunger strike. So in the House, Alicia Kearns, the head of a foreign committee, asked Mr. Tom Tugendhat, the Ministry of State for Security. Vahid Behesti is outside of our foreign office for 26 days. Is anybody from the government willing to go and see him? He responded back, we are happy to go and see him. On the day 33, I had a meeting with Tom Tugendhat himself, the Ministry of State for Security. He agreed with everything that I said. But when it comes to action, there is no will for action. On the day 62 of my hunger strike, I had meeting with Foreign Office, with actual Foreign Office. They agreed with everything that I said and all the evidence that I put on the table. I said in the end, my meeting was with Lord Tariq Ahmed. I said, so you agree IRGC is a terrorist organization? He said, yes. I said, so we have to go for action. We have to prescribe this terror. There is no will. On the day 56 of my hunger strike, 125 MPs, they came and visited me. They wrote the letter to our Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak. They said, we have the same demand as Vahid. Those 125 MPs today, they were about 130 of the, I think 130 or 150 MPs. Again today, on the anniversary of the last year letter, they wrote another letter today to Rishi Sunak and request again the prescription of IRGC. On the day 66 of my hunger strike, I called for a big rally from London Eye to number 10 Downing Street, which more than 10,000 people, they turned up to my rally, and that was only London. We had it, they said yes to my call out in 8 other countries. On the day 70, I went to Buckingham Palace and handed the letter to the king about the situation. So on the day 72, when I was hospitalized, the leader of over 20 million Sunnis in Iran took the risk and wrote a tweet. Today, I am very happy my brother Vahid Behesti ended his hunger strike, because we need him for the future of Iran. We have a great support inside of Iran. We have a great support outside of Iran. But when it comes to the actual, and let me say that, Only in last year, I risked my life twice. Once it was hunger strike, because on the day 72, I had heart palpitation, all my organs was falling down, and that's why I was hospitalized. But about 10 days, 9 days, I think it was after October the 7th, first Saturday in London, they attacked me. About 300 of these Hamas terrorist supporters, they attacked me with a picture of Qasem Soleimani, with a picture of Ali Khamenei, and big knife. If it wasn't because of at least 130 or 125 police officers, which they got there, it was about the second. It was about maybe 5 to 10 seconds. If they weren't on time, I wouldn't be here today talking to you. So for this, risk my life twice only last year, because I know the level of the threat, not to Iranian people only, not to Israeli people only, to our society here. Iranian people, they know the threat. The people of Israel, the government of Israel, they understand the threat, and they are doing everything that they can do to neutralize this threat and overthrowing this regime and destroying it. But the problem is us. Let me put it this way. Why are we got used to constantly ask Israel to practice self-restraint? That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing constantly now. We're asking Israel, okay, do not retaliate, do not retaliate. Why we cannot stop the other side, the evil side? Why we couldn't stop the Iranian regime to launch more than 100, 300 drones and missiles from inside of Iran toward Israel? No, this time I think we know the threat. Okay, any situation, Caroline, there is two sides with any situation: threat and opportunity. Okay, we know the threat. We know.
Right. So wait, let me stop you for a second. I know you have everything set up, but it's supposed to be an interview, so I have to interject from time to time, although I'm happy to listen to you. But look, so what you're saying essentially, if I just boil it down, and then I want to get to what Iran did and talk about what you think Israel should do, is that it seems to me, is it cowardice? Is it corruption? I mean, where would you put your finger and say, this is why the West is refusing to take on Iran? Is it just that they've been penetrated and I don't know, brainwashed? I mean, what are the one or two top things that are preventing the likes of the British and the Americans and the French from taking a serious position that's based on the reality of the murderous nature, the genocidal nature, and the imperialist nature of the Iranian regime? What is it that they'd rather attack its first victim, Israel, and tell us that we're not allowed to defend ourselves from this existential assault on us, rather than recognizing that, as we saw on April 15th and on countless other occasions, Iran also means to destroy them?
So there's these two areas. The first area, I am confident. The second area, that's my fear. But I'm going to talk about both of them. The first area is this. The leaders in the West, unfortunately, they do not have any knowledge about the nature of Iranian regime. They don't know anything about this terrorist group who occupied Iran 45 years ago. I don't want to go through what happened 45 years ago. That's why I don't call it revolution. I call it the international military coup against Iranians. But I don't want to go into that. They don't know anything.
That's a conversation for another time.
That's the lack of knowledge about the nature of this regime. They don't know anything. They think they can convince this regime with talking, with negotiation, with having meeting. When they don't know anything about this regime. They don't know the tactics. They don't know their principles. They don't know their ideology. They don't know their goals. They don't know their mission. So if you don't know any of this, how can you confront this regime? This regime only understands one language. This is what I have been repeating myself for at least 20 years now. Only understand one language, force. It only understand this language, nothing else. This regime only responds to force, nothing else. So regardless of what kind of negotiation we have with them, they are doing their job to reach their goal. Their goal is this. The foundation of this regime is the foundation of Muslim Brotherhood. So you have to educate yourself about Muslim Brotherhood. You have to go and read the books of Hassan Banna, Sanhuri, Sayyid Qutb. You have to read these books. And surprisingly, Ali Khamenei is the first person who translates these books to Farsi. So when you get to this, then you understand what is the goal of this regime. This is what I have said in the beginning. Turning the modern world, our world, into Islamic State. And they said clearly, in order to do that, we have to destroy the order of the new world to be able to build our own world based on our ideology. We saw their ideology on October the 7th. We are observing their ideology for past 45 years in Iran. So they are very clear about who they are and what they are going to do. And they've been really, really active about this. We are seeing creating all these proxies, creating all these different groups in West and what they are doing. So the Western leaders, they are not aware of this, the nature of this regime. So this is the first mistake. And they think by continuing appeasement policy, this is what they done in past 45 years. But my question, I had an interview with LBC a few nights ago. My question from, for example, our foreign minister, David Cameron, because his reason is this, because of not prescribing IRGC is this. We like to leave the communication channel open. I like to communicate with Iranian regime directly. My question is this. What have you achieved so far in past 45 years with having open dialogue and open communication with Iranian regime? Did you manage to stop any of the terrorist activities? I'm not talking about the region. In your own soil, here in UK, only in last year, we had 16 attempted assassination, hostage taking and kidnapping by IRGC in UK. Did you manage stopping the terrorist activity against your journalists? So last year, the Metropolitan Police asked Iran International TV station with 125, 130 journalists to relocate from London and go to DC for 10 months.
To Washington.
So did you manage to stop their activities in order to brainwash our youth here? Did you manage to stop them launching more than 300 drones and missiles from inside the country against Israel? No, you failed big time in past 45 years. So why you are really, really insisting and constantly insisting to continue with the same way? So that was the first part, which I am sure they are not aware of the nature of this regime and the lack of knowledge about the regime, and of course being stubborn to continue the appeasement policy, which it didn't work.
Well, and refusing to learn.
Refusing to learn.
Another
example, this is really important to say. Did you manage?
But what's the second reason?
Let me put this example as well, and then I'll go to the second. Did you manage to do anything about their hostage-taking policy in past 4 decades? No, we are paralyzed in front of them. They are blatantly taking our civilians hostage, and they force us to sit around one table and provide funds for them. This was the biggest mistake. 3 weeks before October the 7th, they released 6 billion fund to them in order to exchange 5 hostages. Of course, they're going to force Hamas to go and take 250 hostages this time. But this was the first part. The second part, this is my fear. This is what I don't want to even think about it. But I hope I am wrong. My fear is the corruption of IRGC infected our politicians here in West that they don't have a courage to stand strongly in front of them. This is my fear, because this is where they are really good. If you see all the politicians in Iran, they all are infected through money, through women, through lots of other things. They have evidence from them, from their corruption, and they cannot say anything. This is my fear, and I hope I am not right and I am wrong. So this is why I think these two reasons why, after all this evidence, we are not still taking any step toward prescription of IRGC, which I think we are past that stage, but we are not doing anything about it yet in West.
I mean, it's actually pathetic that we're still at this stage. It means that they haven't even started.
That's the problem. But the only country understand this regime, this evil regime, is Israel. That's why from the beginning.
Right. So let me just, before you start, because this is going to be the last question, because we do have to finish up. But so Israel was attacked in the largest combined missile and drone assault in history last Saturday on April 13th from Iran. And you have American generals saying that Iran essentially used everything that it had in Western Iran and shot it across to Israel. And in fact, it was not 300, it was 400, because in addition to the 100 ballistic missiles that it shot, Iran also shot another 100 missiles that landed, on their launch pads or short of the target. They were duds. They didn't explode, whatever. So that means that it's 400, not 300. And so we're looking at the largest attack in history of this kind. And America is leading the Western nations to tell Israel, okay, just pretend that your ability to intercept most of these ballistic missiles and drones and cruise missiles means that you won this round, and don't retaliate against Iran. Don't take any action, or if you take any action, make it just a little bit, just a little symbolic thing. So let me just ask you first, if Israel takes the West's advice, if it stands down and just obeys Washington, how will that be seen by Tehran, and how will Iran respond to a weak Israeli response?
So this is exactly what Tehran wants. This is exactly what the Iranian regime wants. Because, look, let's first put it this way. This regime, all I explained, I talked in past maybe half an hour about how they are really good in proxy wars, how about they are really good in infiltrate inside our countries, and brainwashing our youth, influencing our politicians, our policymakers. This is their strength. They are really good. But they have a weakness. They have an Achilles heel. And that is inside of Iran. And Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, understand this very well. Iranian people, they understand this very well. Their Achilles heel is inside of Iran. But when they don't have legitimacy and they don't have any military power. That's why I said they are like a paper tiger. What they done a few days ago, launching these 400 missiles, this is the maximum. Of course, today Haji Zadeh says this was our old weapon, and we use our minimal power. They are paper tiger, and only the world understand this when we attack them inside of Iran. But if we take West advice, President Biden or the other Western countries' advice, this is exactly what Iranian regime wants, to show to their proxies, to show to their own forces, look, we are strong, and motivate them and inspire the other terrorist organizations that we can go and attack Israel. We can do whatever we want to Israel. It's okay to be anti-Semitic. If Israel take this, which I think it's never gonna happen, take this advice, this is sending the wrong signal to Iranian regime that which is we are weak. I think Israel should retaliate strongly, and make an example of this for the whole world. And it shouldn't be just, I would say, the airstrike, in IRGC side, the nuclear side. It should be the cyber attack as well. For example, they know how to do it. It should be the combination of few attacks together. This is what Iranian people inside of Iran, that's why I call them the great military of 80 million Iranians on the ground that we have. They are waiting for this airstrike. So we give them this support. They do the job for us inside of Iran with the lowest price, not on the border of Israel. This is the only way that we can overthrow this regime and hit the head of octopus of terrorism inside of Iran with the lowest price. Let me finish it with this. I think Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, he has a historical mission at this time. He has to be very strong. I know he's under the great pressure from different angle, but he has to play his role as it's been, I would say, how can I put it, set up for him. 2,600 years ago, the prophet, I call it prophet, Cyrus the Great, freed the people of Israel from slavery and gave them opportunity to rebuild their temple, Jerusalem temple. Today, Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, I think he's got the same mission. To give the support to Iranian is not a favor to Iranian, is the combination, is a common war that we have. That's why I call it the holy war between good and evil, between light and darkness. On one side, Israel and the people of Iran and our allies, and on other side, this evil regime and the people who they want to support them. So you cannot sit on the fence anymore. You have to choose side. So there's a great role now for Israel to give the necessary support to Iranian people. It's not going to be a quick job. It's going to be few months, maybe 8 months, 9 months job work. But give the necessary support to Iranian people. Then the Iranian people finish the job for Iran, Israel, and the whole world, and hit the head of octopus of terrorism inside of Iran. This is the only way to counter this existential threat, not just to Iran and Israel, to the whole world.
Well, listen, Vahid Behesti, I thank you very much for your words of wisdom and for your courage in fighting the scourge of humanity, which is the Iranian regime. God should bless you and your colleagues in this fight, and we, of course, are your partners in this fight. So thank you very much for standing up for the people of Iran and for Israel and for all of us. I appreciate it very much, and Godspeed to you.
Thank you. God bless Iran and God bless Israel.
Thanks. And guys, we'll be back. We're taking a bit of a hiatus for Passover, but we'll be back soon. Watch this space. I'm not going anywhere. Take care.